Okay. Why it's a bad idea to check the result of Malloc call with Assert by Andrey Karpov. Okay. Um, the pointer returned by Malloc needs to be checked before use. The assert macro to check the pointer would be wrong. Um, Using the assert macro to check the pointer would be wrong. And this article will investigate why this is a bad programming tip. Okay. So I don't have a ton of experience with C++, but this looks, I mean, intuitively, this looks good because like if you fail to allocate memory, you should exit your program. That makes complete sense. If you're out of memory, you should just crash. In my mind, I feel like that would make the most sense because you just can't do anything. But let's read why my assumption there, why my gut is wrong. When I say malloc, I mean not only this function, but also calloc, realloc, align malloc, realloc, stir dupe, and so on. The malloc function returns a null pointer if it's unable to allocate a memory buffer of the specified size. So it's better to check if a pointer is equal to null before dereferencing it. This check is mandatory. I've covered it with details in the article. 4 reasons to check what the malloc function returned. If you have the slightest doubt that such a check is necessary, please read the article before continuing this one. Yeah, no, I think that's personally, I think that's pretty obvious. I think if you get into a situation where your malloc failed, um, something is wrong, and you need to handle it somehow, and your pointer might be bad, and so before you just start operating on the thing and it's null, I think you should definitely do that. And I think that there's like all sorts of like undefined behavior. I might be wrong, but I think there's like undefined behavior at that point. And there could be some garbage memory there if it fails to allocate and then it still gives you a pointer. Um well, no. I guess it gives you the null pointer. So none of that would happen. But anyway, um the standard check looks like this: int pointer, malloc size of whatever, if not pointer, handling memory allocation error. Yeah, I'm very interested at like how to handle that. That probably differs program to program, but I prefer explicit comparison though. It protects the code from typos and makes it a lot more readable, and it's obvious that the pointer is being checked if pointer equal null. That's a style issue. I think this is fine personally. I don't think you need to double check that it's null. I think if not pointer makes sense because zero and yeah, I think that's fine. But to each their own. The most important thing to do is to handle memory allocation error. The error may appear as follows: a program terminates with a result code if such behavior is allowed. That's probably what I would do most of the time. An operation is rejected, but the program continues working to save the data. That could be good. You could do a recovery of the data. I mean, with what memory you have left, you might have to like figure out how to dealloc some stuff before you can realloc what you need to do to dump that into a file. So that may get interesting. If the program controls a device, it shuts down the device. If the behavior is allowed, that'd be good too. If the library should return a failure status and the program will decide what to do next, yep, that's a good one. Other options depending on the type of the program. Okay, I think this is what most things are going to choose. So let's not assume that we can skip the check because the program will crash anyway if a null pointer is dereferenced. It may not crash. Null pointer dereference is undefined behavior, and its signs can be very surprising to a programmer. I've covered all of this in the article I mentioned before. If it's undefined behavior, you can get into situations where like it'll start overwriting stack memory and heap memory, and you can get into weird scenarios. So I just, yeah, you should handle it. I don't think it's a good idea not to handle it. Now let's discuss the following anti-pattern. This is a lot less code. This is nice. I like it. I like the assert. Um, some programmers use the assert macros or its analogs. I can't talk. Such as the assert macro from the MFC library to check the pointer. Please note that if the ndebug macro is declared, the assert macro turns off, does nothing. For example, implementation from assert.h. It's interesting that it does that. I wonder why that is. I wonder if that's for like production. Oh, and debug. Yeah. I bet it's for when you're not debugging, then the assert turns off and then your program doesn't exit. Which actually okay. Okay. I see it now. I see it. If your program stays running in production with an out of memory error while using assert, and your assert gets compiled out of there, you can get into a situation where you corrupt memory. That's not good. That's not good. Because of the way your program behaves, something wouldn't save, something wouldn't work right, things wouldn't get closed, and then your program would exit, or it wouldn't exit, and you just segfault. Um, In reality, this means that in the release version of the program, which should run as fast as possible, the ndebug macro is declared and assert is turned into nothing. As a result, there's no protection against null pointers, and the consequence can be quite unpleasant, just like we were just talking about. In the debug version of the program, assert works as it should, but it makes no sense in real cases. Yep, we called it. We called it. Um, Usually when developers test the debug version of a program, they use simple operation scenario that don't require large memory allocations. Most likely, severe memory fragmentation won't occur, and it's very unlikely that there will be a situation where memory allocation is impossible. Okay. If such a thing really happens, assert indeed detects a null pointer. However, this is almost useless for the debug version of the program. The null pointer dereference shows up immediately anyway. There won't be any tricky, undefined behavior issues as there are in the optimized code. Yep. So this is what we have. The assert macro doesn't work when it's supposed to in the release builds, but it works where it's a very little relevance in debug builds. What happens if you don't declare ndebug macro for release versions? This is a bad idea. Imagine your server just falling over. Um, in fact, a memory allocation error always causes an application to crash. Such behavior is unacceptable for many types of applications, especially for libraries. Yeah, that could be bad. Your library just just panics you, and or your library just causes you to segfault. Yeah, okay. Many developers also use the same macro to implement additional checks throughout the code where it's necessary. So missing ndebug can be considered a bug, then be fixed. Just don't do that. Yep. Never be lazy to write proper crash checks, and users will be grateful. Thank you for reading. That was really good. I like that a lot. I like it a lot. So that makes a lot of sense. That would be bad if you compile out your check for errors at the end. So yeah, that makes sense. All right, I learned something. Well, if you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up. Please leave a comment. If you liked it or didn't like it, whatever. I'd like to wish everybody have a good day.